everyone, to another Gibberish Discussions podcast. My name is Gibberish, and today we are joined by our two normal Gibberish members. We got John,
Howdy.
and we got Matt.
What's up?
And today we got some interesting stuff to talk about. We're going to be talking about the rumor that Disney might be retconning the Star Wars sequels, Amazon's Fallout TV show, and the Pirates of the Caribbean reboot starring Margot Robbie. A lot of interesting stuff, a lot of rumors, so let's get into it, starting with Star Wars. We all love Star Wars, and it's been a rough 2 years, 3 years, I would say. So, going into that, our I'm just gonna ask you guys. This is all rumors. All right, everything's rumor. Nothing's official. There is no Disney post announcement, at least at the current moment. So, I just want to ask you guys: do you believe this could be true? That Disney would retcon the sequels and create a new trilogy in doing it? Let's start with Matt.
No, it would be a financial hit on them
Mm-hmm.
because then it would be what DC and Marvel does for Elseworlds and What If. It'd be a What If timeline, and it honestly, for the fans of the trilogy, it would cause backlash that would hurt them more than benefit them. So I think it's just purely rumor for the sake of conversation starter.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Matt on this one. There's simply no chance that Disney is going to retcon the trilogy they made. I mean, it wasn't a good trilogy. They just set up so many things and just failed to deliver on. But but to do that would be financial suicide. It'd be shooting themselves in the foot. So
So, would it be financial suicide? Because, would you just not go see it? Either one. Would.
I wouldn't necessarily not go see it, but it had to catch my interest.
Mm-hmm.
The first Star Wars, at least in Force Awakens, was somewhat interesting in concept.
Mm-hmm.
Movie 2 had flaws, but overall was a fun little blast. I think the weakest link is technically for me the Rise of Skywalker, and even then,
Mm-hmm.
at the very least, as a Star Wars movie, it's fun enough to kind of watch. Not anything fancy.
Yeah, because I was kind of on board of just saying, like, let's just retcon, like, Rise of Skywalker and, or Last Jedi, and kind of just redo those two movies if possible. That would be a little different, I feel like, in the initial. Uh, but that'd be a little hard with Carrie Fisher not passing away and not being able to come back from the movies. Um, so you guys are both against it, all right?
well, I
What
think the
would
problem with retconning
go ahead?
do what? The problem with retconning an entire trilogy is the fact that you gotta get it's gonna confuse general audiences way too much. I follow movie news, so
Mm-hmm.
if I hear this is a retcon of the original trilogy, I can look and see and decide for myself if I want to go see it or not. And because I love Star Wars, I probably will. If a general
Mm-hmm.
movie audience sees Episode 7, Star Wars Episode 7, Star Wars Episode 8, Star Wars Episode 9 again, they're not going to follow movie news and like they'll hear everything secondhand. It won't make any sense to them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think ideas like retconning are in the conscious of the general public. I think that's the reason it wouldn't be financially viable. Not because like the dedicated nerds wouldn't see it, because we probably would, but because general audience goers would be confused
Mm-hmm.
as hell by it. So
I think one thing that is kind of interesting. So since you both are against it, what would it take for you to change your mind? Like, so like some of the things I had that I would need for them to do this is I would want someone else in charge of it, not Kathleen Kennedy. So maybe someone like John Favreau and Dave Filoni. Something like I would want them to plan out a three-story trilogy, so they don't set up things that they don't aren't willing to tell, and like I would want
what you
like
mean? You want them to
stuff like
plan
that.
stuff?
So like my question is if we got like the dream team, Like we got John Favreau, Dave Filoni, and we got all these wonderful setups. Would you just rather them create their own new trilogy of like Old Republic or High Republic era, or would you rather them just, or would you rather John or Dave to just do this?
I'd personally rather a whole new trilogy not connected to the
Hmm.
Skywalker saga. It would be less confusion to general audiences. You can promote it much better and not sound pretentious for re-releasing a movie trilogy that had to be fixed and actually be planned.
Hmm.
Plus, you can plan a new trilogy without it retconning a ending to a Skywalker.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I have to go with Matt on this. Is that I'd rather see like a New Republic trilogy. The problem with retconning the sequel trilogy isn't that they couldn't make a better trilogy if they tried, because it's hard to make. I think it'd be hard to make a worse trilogy because it was a pretty bad trilogy. I mean, the fact that the prequels are being highlighted as good now or as better speaks to something, because those films are not good films. I mean, they aren't horrible films, but they have a lot of problems to them. And the fact that they're being highlighted as like have like almost amnesia of how they've been regarded for the past 20 years just because of this new trilogy being so bad. I mean, that speaks to something. So, but conceptually, I just don't think it would work because again, like, general audiences aren't going to
Hmm.
go for it. So a new trilogy telling a new story is the most pragmatic approach to keep the franchise alive and keep the world
Hmm.
alive. So that's my stance.
Yeah, and I think that like as much as I don't like Kathleen Kennedy, I do think it is kind of like a spit in the face of the people who have worked on those films and the people who are in there. Like I personally think that Adam Driver did a great job as Kylo Ren, and
He did.
I would hate to see like his work kind of get undermined for that. So yeah,
And John
I think I'm.
Bodega and his character of Finn really got screwed because that was such an interesting concept that they just totally wrecked.
Hmm. But I think that if creating a new trilogy and kind of moving on is probably the right way to go, and I think that's the kind of like the path to healing. I think the redoing it could kind of just be like I think it'd just be a little too complicated. So yeah,
To quote Kylo Ren, "Let the past die."
I would say that it is a probably a best thing if it didn't happen. But it is interesting hearing John Favreau, because in the article it states that there's a civil war going on between John Favreau and Kathleen Kennedy. So it is interesting seeing that John Favreau is having a big, he has a big voice now in the Star Wars industry. So I guess what I'm asking is, could this kind of help if this is true, just the talks of it being true? It not like the actual retcon, but if it the talks of retconning being true are true, then could uh could this mean that John Favreau is moving higher up in the Star Wars company in Lucasfilm?
I think Kathleen Kennedy's been rumored to be on her way out for a while now, and
That's been going on since Last
considering,
Jedi though, so
well, yeah, and I don't know to what degree the rumors are true, but I kind of think that like Disney higher ups aren't satisfied with her job performance. The fact that this trilogy wasn't planned out was disastrous for them. I mean, the toy sales are just like non-existent because nobody really cares about these characters because they weren't planned out all that well. So I mean, Bob
mhm.
Iger, I
Yeah.
think, who is the CEO, I can't imagine he's very happy with her
Bob Iger
performance. I
stepped
can
down
see
by the
her.
way. He's no longer the CEO of Disney. He stepped down a few months ago.
Okay, well, whoever the president CEO is, I mean, the general purpose is the higher ups can't be happy with her performance.
Mhm.
So, I imagine somebody else taking her place is soon,
Well,
regardless.
the question
And
is, do you think John Favreau is the one?
I think he is a good candidate. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he did take her place.
What do you think, Matt?
I think he would be the. He's shown his overall ability with Mandalorian, which was his. I'll say, though he teamed up with someone else, he had a great love child with Mandalorian, where it was 8 episodes, genuine, strong, linked up storytelling, without feeling forced, badly written, or just wrong. So I think he would be the next one to step up and take her place if she was to leave, or as he climbs up the totem pole, he'll have a higher position well within that range. So I think, yeah, just because he's showed his hand and it's been good.
Hmm. And John was saying earlier before we started this that there were rumors too about Kevin Feige taking over as Lucasfilm CEO. What do you think of that, Matt?
Mixed. Kevin Feige has a good mind to keep everything in check, so
Hmm.
he would definitely not let another trilogy happen that's uncohesive.
Hmm.
But I'm afraid that he might bring the Marvel side over and make it feel like a Marvel franchise instead of a separate Star Wars style franchise.
Yeah, my main concern of having Kevin Feige over as CEO was like it was kind of like we wouldn't get anything god awful like what we have, but we wouldn't get anything amazing either. I feel like I feel like we would just get like Marvel quippy and like kind of like good stuff, but nothing like out of this world. Now that may just be my general impression of it. What do you think, John?
Well, I mean, we haven't. I mean, at least I haven't really seen Kevin Feige do anything outside the Marvel universe because that's where he's grown prominent and grown the level of respect that he has.
Hmm.
Um, but so it's hard to see to tell what he would do with another franchise or another like universe. But
Hmm.
like I would think him being a fan of the series, like he would get the general difference between the two in tone and all that type of stuff, and he'd change accordingly. So like the fact that we know there's the different like the whole like jokey quippy aspect is normal in the Marvel universe, but not as much so in the Star Wars universe. I feel like that's general fan knowledge and a general like an intuitive sense that most fans have, and I would expect Kevin Feige to likely have that as well. So I'm not. I mean, it's hard to know because he hasn't done anything besides the MCU, but I would think he has that sense. I'd be surprised if he didn't.
Yeah, and I think it's unlikely that they would not. I don't know if they would really let him. Like, I'm sure they would let him leave if he wanted to, but I think Marvel is in such a good space with him right now that they would be very hesitant to have him leave that platform. So, yeah, I'm kind of on like the fence where John Favreau is like my main candidate, but I mean, as long as it's someone who is smart and cares about Star Wars, I am down. Which both of those people fill that space, so I'm down for either one. Uh, so yeah, anything else before we move on that you guys want to share?
David Filoni might be another good candidate.
Hmm.
The guy who did the Clone Wars series.
So Dave Filoni has been a kind of a candidate, but I think most people think of John because Dave Filoni has never. The Mandalorian was his first time ever dealing with live action, and so when
Yeah,
people think of it, I think they think of John Favreau like as the CEO, but they think of like Dave Filoni as like the content creator. Like he's the guy we want doing the storylines and all that. Which maybe
yeah,
they would
especially
have him
with
do
his
that.
closeness with George
Hmm.
too.
Yeah, he's like the Padawan, and George is the Jedi Knight.
Yes, indeed.
What about you, Matt? Anything you wanna say before we move on to Fallout?
Nothing I can particularly think of.
All right, then on to Amazon's Fallout. God dang it, Amazon, you did it again. So, Amazon is creating their Fallout TV show. Yay! This has been like okay, so this show has been like been trying to happen for like almost like 25 years. And now Amazon has finally taken it into. So I will let you guys know everything we know so far, and then we can talk about it. So Amazon has acquired the rights to Fallout and are creating a TV show. Some of the writers of Westworld will be on the show, and Amazon has already released a small trailer which didn't really reveal much. It was kind of just saying, "Hey, we have it, and it's actually happening." Um, so that is actually good. The fact that we got a trailer means, hey, we actually have something going on now, and we don't know the cast, the director, or the release date. But one of the writers is Jonathan Nolan, which is the brother of Christopher Nolan. So that is actually kind of interesting. He did work on The Dark Knight and on Westworld. So, what do you guys think?
Well, I know nothing of the Fallout game movies. I
Hmm.
actually didn't know they were 25 years. So that's surprised me. I thought they were a somewhat newer franchise than that. But I don't really have. I know generally game to like movie or series has a generally rocky history. Like Prince of Persia didn't do all that well. The what was it? The World of Warcraft was kind of a mess. Mortal Kombat. So
Hmm.
I know there's a general shaky history with game to movie or game. I guess now game to TV show transition in media. So this could very well be a continuation of that. But I don't know anything of the Fallout story to speak to that specifically.
Hmm.
So the good thing about Fallout, and this is where I will say I'm glad for this, Fallout does not have a set story. The Fallout games are make a character, that's your character, play your story that is led of your choices. So a
Hmm.
Fallout TV series would be fantastic if they're done right because you can make a interesting story while keeping the nature of Fallout.
Hmm.
A good example is Fallout Nuka Break, a YouTube web series that was, I think, 2, 3 seasons. I can't remember who made it, but it was really good for a small budget YouTube channel content, and it hit the right mark on the world while not going too far into the game history, but given just enough to make it feel like it belonged.
Hmm.
So I think Amazon's gonna with the Westworld director, or at least someone who worked on Westworld, I feel like we can get a very methodical yet fun westerny TV show out of this, while still keeping it accurate to lore lore culture of what the games present.
Hmm.
And
Definitely.
Jonathan Nolan is a good writer.
Hmm.
Like you said, he was wrote part of the Dark Knight movie as well as he's a main writer in Westworld. Both of which have like great writing on them. So like like
Hmm.
like but I already like him not just because he shares my name. I like him as a writer. So I trust that there's at least some level of competency going into the series.
He is someone who is very much a like having this credentials of writing is what makes me have more faith into the show. And I understand like the skepticism of games going to media format. That has been kind of a bad ride for a while, but I feel like now they're starting to get it. I feel like what happens is they have a hard time converting it to movies. But TV shows is easier because you're able to flesh it out a lot longer. I think the greatest example of a game, the TV show, is Castlevania, which is really successful and one of my favorite shows. So I hope that they can do a good job with this being a TV show. Whenever I hear a game going to TV show, I have a lot more faith than a game going to movie. So yeah, like I'm actually excited about this because Fallout has a very interesting storyline. Matt, you played the Fallout games, right?
Yes, except for 76, but I've played 1 through 4.
Hmm. So you want to give us a quick little, just like brief, because like this one is apparently set in Vault 13, and like the post-apocalyptic world. So you want to give us like a little bit of a brief of what the storyline could be, like.
Well, based in Fall 13, we'd have a vault dweller. We'd have, I'll say in game terms, a generic make your own character vault dweller.
Hmm.
But anything I could see coming out of this that I would actually that so the games themselves, I don't know the exact background to it. It's been a minute since I've looked too deep. But basically, nuclear Armageddon happens, and the
Hmm.
world has to rebuild. and the games take place in various states, various cities. You name it, it's probably got a story. With Vault 13, based on where they said it, there's a world they could play with. They can make it a
Hmm.
revenge story, like I want to say New Vegas was a revenge story. They could make it about a father and son, like 3 or 4.
Hmm.
But most of all, they could really go anywhere. The plot on it could be anything. It could be a gathering of a rebellion. It could be an all-out war between factions. It could be about the Minutemen, which is also a very interesting faction that the game presents, or the NSR.
I think it just has so much potential because there's like so many areas you can go into with this. And
And
go ahead.
I was gonna also say, also creatures. They could play with creatures a lot in this
Oh yeah.
because mutants, mega mutants, which are just like 5-story tall creatures. Weapons could be insane. They have so much to play with, and so they have an unlimited playground of toys at their disposal that it'd be hard for them to mess this up unless they just start playing the lore change.
Hmm. I think another cool thing about this, Emergency Awesome, a kind of news informative YouTuber, said that he believes that it's going to be based off like you're in Vault 13, one of the bunkers, and that your water supply is cut off, and so you have to venture out and help basically get that back up and running. Was like his kind of take on it. Do you think that's something that could be a possible outcome for it?
Oh yeah, especially because it's a TV show, it has to play more realism.
Hmm.
They could absolutely have fun with resource management is absolutely bad, runs out of food, water, and decides that he has to unfortunately venture into the unknown fourth.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Uh, okay, so it's Amazon. This means we don't have to worry probably too much of a PG-13 Venom incident. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's a absolute need to be TVMA. It needs to be because not just the violence, but the thematics of that world is it's a survival land. So corpses, bullet wounds, general blood and gore is a very common area, especially when you get into some towns that might have a few screws loose.
Hmm.
Especially since murder in most towns don't take away too much from the overall thing when it comes down to just how people manage law or justice.
Hmm. Go ahead, John.
So what are the ratings of the game? Are the games rated M for mature?
Yes.
Hmm.
Okay. Well then, yeah, I would say you need to keep the same level of rating for the for the show as you have for the game because that's going to be your main audience. And
Hmm.
if the main audience is used to having this level of gore or violence, language, whatever it is that gave it that rated M rating in
Yeah.
the game, they're gonna if that's the audience, they're want to see that world translated accurately into
Hmm.
film, which is going to cause a rated mature
Proper representation.
TV rating. So yeah, proper representation exactly,
Hmm.
and that may cost having a having the like lower tier audience being a smaller group of people because you can't have 13-year-olds or 14-year-olds or
Hmm.
whomever. But you got if you're not satisfying the core audience, then you're not going to satisfy whoever is under it because these are the people who spread the word of mouth to everybody else.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
Kind of
And,
like The Witcher. The
yeah.
Witcher
exactly.
was TVMA, but it represented what the show needed from books and other materials.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think The Witcher did a good job of kind of taking like the story of the books, but kind of bringing in the feel of the games, if that makes sense. Uh, it did a good job of that. Um, so one thing I was talking to Martin, who was not able to join us for this episode, but he was saying he was concerned about the overall writing of the show, even though we got writers from Westworld, because it has been said that game developers have been said to be helping influence the storyline and the writing there. And with Fallout 76 not being very well received, he was very much worried that it could be have kind of like studio tampering in a way where it could be like affected in a negative way based off of that. Do you think, based on past bad games, that the game developers could make this worse, or you think that that's probably an under exaggeration? I mean, an exaggeration.
It could be worse. That much is true. However, Bethesda knows when they made a mistake,
Hmm.
and Fallout 76 being a brainchild that was supposed to be this next decade project, and it falling flat within 2 months, and barely being kept alive by the minimal fan base,
Hmm.
I feel like it wouldn't affect it too much because Bethesda would be able to make the difference of here's what was bad, we're gonna go with the good. So instead of going to 76, they'll go New Vegas,
Yeah.
where that had some of the best writing, but also some of the best world culture.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it has a lot of interesting possibilities. Know of definitely that a lot of times having game developers can kind of be an issue, especially when translating that story into movie, but or TV show in this case. But I trust the Westworld writers. I think that Nolan and the rest are smart enough to kind of push forward and create this story at least very well structured. Um, so I think it's very positive that a streaming service is doing this. Just because like Amazon, they have a lot of dough. All right, they can spend a little money on this thing, and I've been told that this is going to be a very expensive movie. I don't think we know the budget yet, but they are going to put some money into this. So do you think now is a good time? Because like I said, at least TV show idea has been said to happen for like 25 years, but now it's actually happening. So, are you happy that it's happening now? And are you happy that Amazon is over it? Let's start with John on this one.
Well, I don't have any connection to the series because
Hmm.
I've never played it before. But I think Amazon's generally a good company. They made some pretty good series. So like I'm not anti in any way. So like I think especially with Jonathan Nolan on writing and other Westworld writers, I think you have a potential for a good series.
Hmm.
So there's nothing about it being Amazon that gives me any worry. So that's for sure.
Matt.
Matt, what about you?
Uh, so I'm quite glad Amazon's got it. They won't limp out, and they'll definitely, and honestly, hopefully, keep that core mechanic while still making their own choice on it.
Yeah.
Because obviously, Amazon's got money to throw when it comes down to these kind of materials. But Amazon's also shown that they tend to try to make people happy within what they make. So it isn't like they're gonna just try to outright piss the fans off. It'd be more like they'll try to make something close enough, but make it different enough so they can at least have their take on it,
Hmm.
while still keeping relative relation to what makes it good.
One thing that I am excited about is that the idea of Fallout is a very good idea for a TV show. And I think that it's going to be very good because some games, when you try to translate it from game to TV show or any media format, you're following specific characters that you were and stuff. But this is more of a generic player experience. And I think it's a very good setting and kind of way of it's a good. They're in a good position to make this a TV show, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I get what you mean.
But yeah, I'm definitely excited. And I'm glad that it's a streaming service like Amazon, who's doing it. Because, like you said, they're not gonna do a Venom incident where they're gonna be like, "Let's make it PG-13, but film it like it's gonna be R, and then cut out all the good parts." All right, moving on.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. Final segment of today. We're ahead of schedule today. Pirates of the Caribbean reboot. Okay, so this is a very interesting one for me because I I think it's just really interesting. We'll get to it in a second. All right. So basically, we know hardly anything about this, but we do know A, it is happening. We know B, we know that the writers from the first four Pirates of the Caribbean movie will be writing for it. And we know that three, Margot Robbie is to be in the movie as a star, as one of the main characters. So, are you happy that it is a reboot? Are you glad it's a reboot, or would you have rather just Pirates of the Caribbean 7? Let's do Matt
7.
or 6. I forget. There are too many.
Honestly, I'd rather a spinoff. I don't want a reboot.
Mhm.
Reboots tend to have the problem of changing everything in the universe.
Mhm.
Like Ghostbusters 2016, for example. It
Mhm.
changed to where the original Ghostbusters never existed. So where was the hold on for the old fans now? Yeah, we can see a new team, but it scares us because what happens when they just play it dumb? So I'd rather a
Mhm.
spin-off instead of it being anything else, since a spin-off could play on the world more, n- drop some names, but never overplay the names.
Mhm.
And also, they can have so much more fun with it without having me connected to Johnny Depp as a Johnny Depp's overall story arc, where it'd be something a little different.
Mhm. Yeah, we don't have to deal with another Jack Sparrow kind of like wannabe. What do you think,
Yep.
John?
I kind of like Matt's spinoff idea better than better than a reboot. I mean, I was kind of tired of the franchise anyways. Like,
Mhm.
I think the first three were good. The third one being probably the least good of the three. But after that, it just kind of got kind of tired for me, especially after Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley left the series.
Mhm.
So I think a spin off following the completely different characters could be fun,
Mhm.
but like have the same already established world, you know.
Yeah. And I'm actually really glad you guys said spin-off because that was actually one of my questions. Would you have rather a spin-off? So I'm really glad because I think a spin-off allows for a lot more flexibility and it kind of like I don't want a cinematic universe. All right, I don't want that. Okay, not every show needs to have a cinematic universe, but a spin-off and maybe have a cameo of some of the older characters is a very interesting thing to me because it helps flesh out the stories we have without just saying, "All right, here's a Orlando Bloom wannabe. Here's Jack Sparrow, but he's not Jack Sparrow." Like there are all these different like now it's kind of like Batman. Like Batman's been rebooted so many times at this point. Like I'm kind of just like I like spin-offs because it allows for a lot more flexibility in my mind. Uh, so since this is a reboot, though, we had to live with this. So with this reboot, one of the rumors, at least I have, is that it's possible that Margot Robbie will play a female version of Jack Sparrow, which is kind of funny considering she was like Deadpool and Jack Sparrow in Birds of Prey. So, I mean, what do you guys think of that? I don't care. I'm kind of like this topic. I'm kind of just like whatever.
Well,
uh,
if she's just a carbon like a copy of Jack Sparrow but female, then I think that'd be rather tired and boring. That would disappoint me. But in real life, there were plenty of female pirates back in that era. Like pirates were
Mhm.
kind of outcasts. It was a lot.
Bonnie.
So it was a lot of like people who didn't conform to like the general norm of society.
Mhm.
So like female pirates were a rather common thing. So exploring that and I think could be fun. But yeah, if they're just gonna do if it's just like a wannabe Jack Sparrow but female, that'd be boring and trite. But I think having a female pirate, even a female pirate as the lead, could be a lot of fun
Mhm.
potentially, depending on how they write it.
Matt.
Oh,
Uh, so I'm a little afraid of just that, a female Jack Sparrow. I'd rather a polar opposite to pull us in. An actual serious pirate who is female, who is serious because of her fact that she's a female pirate in a world of well pirates where there's very few females.
Kind of like Zoe Saldana's character in the Black Pearl.
Yeah, like I really would like to see an polar opposite instead of just here's Jack Sparrow, but but he's a she and got boobs and will act the same. That would be dull.
Yeah.
Honestly, the 4 and 5 were just dull because Jack Sparrow's character felt so at that point boring because we already got to see how much we could go into. So I would love to see if they were to make it a quote unquote female Jack Sparrow. I'd rather see an expectation of making her personality very different, making her play something immensely more intriguing instead of just goofy over the top pirate that probably drunk all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it is kind of interesting because if they did just make her a female Jack Sparrow, I actually wouldn't hate that too much. Like, what's your if they're rebooting it and they are just gonna have someone play Jack Sparrow? Is there like an alternative that you would rather have? Like, I heard a rumor that Zac Efron is like a possible candidate to play Jack Sparrow, and I would not want that compared to. I think Margot Robbie is a good actress, and I think she has the potential. If she did her own little twist on it, she could actually be a good version of Jack Sparrow, as long as she doesn't just try to copy him. You guys know what I'm saying? Like, imagine if she just like she tries to play the character in her own sense. I think that would be better than just trying to get another guy actor just trying to mimic him, Johnny Depp. You guys know what I'm saying?
Well,
well, okay. We don't. I think the thing is, we don't need another Jack Sparrow. No version of Jack Sparrow, male or female, white or black or whatever, is going to be interesting because we've already seen that. We need a new character entirely. So if it just if I get the sense it's just a Sparrow, it doesn't matter who it is or who's playing it. I'm not seeing it because I've already seen it. So that's kind of my take.
and I'm on that boat too. I'd rather see, like I said, a character that's different in a perspective. Even if it's still a Jack Sparrow esque character, but got a whole different play on it, it'd be much better. I don't want to see Mark Robbie, great actress, but if she plays Harley Quinn as a pirate,
Yeah.
I'd be out of I'd be out of it. It'd be
Yeah.
a boring thing. And also, same with Jack Sparrow. If she played a female Jack Sparrow where she's drunk and she's belligerently stupid, but it's got this
Mhm.
heroic backstory, that's yet again a boring trope. Give her something like Bonnie, where real life pirate Bonnie, who is hidden for the most part, but you could play on realistic female pirates that were popularized and well known instead of just taking fictional pirate that's known for being stupid and drunk.
Mhm.
Make her maybe smart. She might be an alcoholic, but she's smart and she can actually handle scenarios without being belligerently drunk.
Yeah. So I'm kind of hearing like you guys kind of want like a a reversion of the character, kind of like how from Jack Nicholson to Heath Ledger, in kind of a way. You want the character, but a rehashed done version of him that it surprises you. Is that what you guys are kind of saying? That
No, I don't want the character at all. I want a different character.
a retelling of
You don't
now,
need
it
you
doesn't
don't.
have to have the name of Jack Sparrow, but someone to fill in that kind of like side character void. Because in Black Pearl, he is a side character. So,
The problem is, and will always be about trying this thing, is the Ghostbusters scenario.
hmm
They tried really hard to make a movie funny, but they missed out on what was the heart and core of the original material, which was natural comedy with Pirates of the Caribbean. The first movie had this adventure, this
hmm
quest for something that you couldn't get, and
yeah,
yet you sat with it. If they just copy and paste the third movie with a female character and call her Jacqueline Sparrow
hmm
or something like that, it would be so lazy on Disney's part.
hmm
I probably wouldn't watch it. I
yeah,
want a new character. I want a whole new character. I want something that has no retaliation to Jack Sparrow. I want something that's completely not seen before, or taking a small character's trope
hmm
that we used maybe one two scenes and making that fluently more better.
and I hear that, but like my question, this is a reboot. So whether or not Harley Quinn or not isn't, from what we know, a reboot probably does mean that Jack Sparrow will probably return, right? I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to, but I think it heavily implies it.
Well, I mean, I'll bring up Ghostbusters again. Ghostbusters rebooted the franchise, but whole new characters,
True.
new, new names, somewhat new personalities, though we still had some of the tropes sticking around.
Mhm.
But they generally, the reboot made it different enough for the new audience and the old audience to make it a different take.
Mhm.
So I'd rather that case file, but with a more organic nature than just rehashing the same character tropes for the sake of, oh, it's what we know.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just was a little skeptical that since they were rebooting it, that meant that they were just gonna retell the same story. I hope they don't, but that was my initial worry with it.
Well, I
Uh,
think that's the difference between a reboot and a remake.
hmm.
I think that's kind of the difference between a reboot and a remake. A remake would be kind of like a carbon copy. A reboot can be same universe, same general idea, but different characters, different story.
True. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I I definitely hope it's good. I'm a huge fan of the Pirates of the Caribbean, even though there's only one good movie in the franchise. So I definitely hope that that is the case, that it ends up being good. But I am a little skeptical of it overall. Um, another initial thought was that this could, now let's just say could, it could be a TV show, a Pirates of the Caribbean style TV show. What was your guys' initial thoughts on that? Would you rather a TV show or would you rather a movie?
A TV show can play much heavier handed with a story. So in that questioning, I'd rather at least a one season TV show to see how well it goes and see how they could play it out. Because a movie would be
hmm
fine, but if we get yet another attempt at a really cool idea that's executed wrong, it would suck for a movie because then it's a box office bomb that would never get a sequel if it's like. A TV show
hmm
could at least finish up one major story well enough with a good bounce, and at least I feel like a TV show would be a better hand for them to try to quote unquote reboot the universe
hmm
if that's what they're really going to go with.
I don't know. I feel like too many like TV shows are becoming like almost like too popular. Oh, this was a huge movie. Let's make it a TV series. I feel like it's happening too much. Where I'd get kind of tired if it keeps on happening. So I'd prefer
hmm
a movie to a TV show. And They can complete a whole story in one movie too. That is a thing that can be done. Like Curse of the Black Pearl was one whole story. Yes,
Mhm.
there was a way to add on to it, and they made Dead Man's Chest.
Mhm.
But like you could just watch Curse of the Black Pearl and get a full story, and they can do the same
Oh
thing
yeah,
with this reboot. There's nothing saying they can't. Now they may
definitely.
choose not to, but like that's definitely a thing they can do. And then if it succeeds, go from there.
I
So I don't think
I think
trying to give out
one reason
an unfinished
why
story is.
I think one reason why people are starting to gravitate to more TV shows is TV shows are a lot easier. I feel like to flesh out storylines because you're just given
Definitely.
so much more time. Like like I feel like the best example of a TV show and a movie is Avatar: The Last Airbender. The first season of that show is amazing because of all the time they got to flesh it out. And then, the movie, we're not going to talk about that, but the
Well, let's
movie
also go
was
into the
not
M Night
good. And,
Shyamalan. So Shyamalan
well,
being Shyamalan played a
well, the
huge.
point is that it's hard to squish a whole season into a movie, but
It
I
is.
think it's a lot easier to tell a story in a TV show, which is why I kind of now we're in this like I feel like we're in like 2010 was like the superhero like movie era, and now like 2020's decade is going to be like the TV show kind of era where that's really going to
Yeah.
explode.
But on the other side of it, like I've seen a lot of shows in order to have dragged on a little bit, had like somewhat filler episodes that didn't need to
Oh yeah,
happen just
every
to
TV show is
make
going to
just to
have
make it
that.
seem like a series. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
about finding that balance. Some stories definitely are better suited for a series type content, and they need that in order to flesh out a character and
Mhm.
to make them interesting, or to finish a plot. Some
Yeah.
some stories, a
I
movie
th-
can
I
do
j-
all of that
I
perfect.
think that people are
And
just
at least my
gravitating.
sense is Pirates is a movie.
I think people just gravitate towards it a little more because it's allowing more time for more character growth and stuff like that. What's your take on
Yeah,
this little debate, Matt?
I see both sides. On the one hand, a movie would be financially easier, and it would cost less overall if you consider the amount of budget they have to do for a TV show on it. But on the
Hmm.
other hand, I'd been for either case, so long as it looks interesting.
Yeah.
Because yeah, we could have a bunch of TV to movies to TV shows and vice versa.
Hmm.
But I want to say the only reason they would TV show is if they intend a long, elongated plot line. If it's going to be a simple 2 hour movie that can be finished within the 2 hour time point,
Hmm.
that'd be my preference. But if they're going to try to make a whole franchise out of it, a starter film would be fine, but then trying to find a financially better way would be the hard part because then if it doesn't work out, but they still have like 2 movies with the story, how are you going to play that?
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
would say in that boat, it's kind of a what they intend to do because we don't know outside of just a reboot if they're going to try to make a franchise out of it or if it'll just be, hey, look, here is random thing that we're going to make and just call it a Pirates reboot.
well, they're definitely looking to make more movie or more than one thing.
Yeah.
The idea that they're just making one thing and leaving it alone forever is just not feasible. They're definitely looking to make another franchise. They're looking to repeat what they already did.
And I would be fine with that if it's good. Pirates of the
Yeah.
Caribbean, Curse of Black Pearl, one of my favorite movies of all time, the best Johnny Depp movie. Try to convince me. But I definitely,
Edward Scissorhands.
huh? Oh,
That's a bad movie
oh
right
my
there.
God.
Hot
At
take.
least he didn't say Crimes of Grindelwald. um, so I think overall I am like excited a little bit for Pirates, but I'm also just like it better be good. Like the last
Yeah.
two Pirates movies did not make me happy, so I would like it. I think the interesting thing about TV shows is that we haven't really had a pirate TV show, at least not in a long time, that I can think of. Is there one that you guys know of? A pirate TV show?
Black
Jake and the
Sails.
Pirates or whatever
Get
that
out of
kids
here.
show.
I'm going to kick you out of this call.
But Black Sails, that's a pirate show that had 3 or 4 seasons and was really good about its gritty nature of being a pirate show while still being a very fun high seas adventure.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, in the end, I love Pirates of the Caribbean, and I hope it does well. Uh, is there anything you guys want to say before we move on from Pirates?
No, I think we covered a good bit.
Yeah.
All right, no Harley Quinn too. All right, so there you go, guys. That is our gibberish discussion podcast today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please check out the channel; it really helps, and subscribe to iTunes where we post every day. We always post on iTunes sooner than we do on YouTube, so check that out first. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we will see y'all next time. Bye.
Adios.
Bye.